Good morning. You're on mute. Can't hear you.
Okay, I think
Now I can hear you. How are you?
yeah, I'm fine, thanks. And also, yeah, there is a Sunday thought. I shared with you some slide about the idea review. I don't know if you want to check them out, um, or we also can wait. Peter, if is
I
that
don't know if everybody is. It's already for it. Maybe people aren't coming. Um, but we should start with anyway, just for the recording, the regular slides and show
Mhm.
the stuff, and then you and I can just go through the points we have to cover today. And then I think there's another business meeting at 10
Okay. Yeah, yeah, I remember.
with the new.
With Tim.
Yes,
Yeah, with Tim. Okay. Okay, but the
I can
slide
share
of
my. Hold on.
yeah, sure, sure you can.
That's not it. Hold on, I'm getting there. That's it. Okay. Okay, so this is the November 11th
Mm-hmm.
of the AI FAQ. It's a Linux Foundation sponsored call. So if you have any questions about how to behave, we have a code of conduct, and there's a link right there on the screen. So let's just get right to it, Gianluca. Maybe get some time back for testing. So for the business stuff, I did this slide. So it's the website and what I did on the website. This is the editor. I'm going to work on it, but I have that YouTube video. So if you know anyone who wants to try it out, um, the link is on our website, which is AIFAQ Pro. So they can try that out. I might redesign this so it's easier to see where the YouTube video is. I just wanted to get it on there so that if people wanted to test it, they could. I obviously have a cold. You can hear it in my voice. Doesn't always sound this bad. So I'm waiting for. Uh, so our meetup is set up with the international community at Linux Foundation. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go edit that and add that link for the YouTube video and change the description to say try it out before the event.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the YouTube video. I am working on the step by step. Where is that? That's a Google Drive somewhere. A step by step documentation to just go next to it where you see pictures. So sometimes
Mm-hmm.
people just like to have that as well. But I just want to get the meetup changed. And now
Mm-hmm.
that YouTube video is there, I want to set up the meetup for the 3,000 folks in New Jersey who are part of that Princeton meetup group. Add that in there right away. Just copy the meetup from Hyperledger and put it on there. So maybe we'll get more testers and maybe
Mm-hmm.
say something like if you tried it out, maybe you can show us how, give us your feedback during the event. Have it very interactive. So now that I have that, as soon as I get done with that document, I will do that for Princeton Blockchain and AI. Now, what about Jim Mason? Do we want to send that to him separately in an email?
No, no, yet, because I have a question for you. Yeah, now I'm working on the AWS version. In your opinion, yeah, if you have, I have enough time, I can. When I have the first version, I want to send the email to Jim. But the idea is, the question is, uh, in your opinion, it's the best to have a YouTube video on how to install that version on AWS, or share the AWS link where Jim, because I think Jim is more comfortable to have just one URL to test. We can have one or two YouTube video, one for the local installation and the other one for AWS installation, but also to have one version for non tech person that wants to just try the system, um, connecting by browser web.
It's just us today.
Hi, Peter. How are you?
Sorry for being a little late.
Oh, no worries. We were
Oh,
just
no
talking
problem.
about. We just went over like the website. The link to the YouTube video for the quick installation is on the website for anyone who wants to test it. I'm gonna
Yep, I
go.
plan to do that.
I'm gonna go ahead and put it as soon as it's tested a little. Announce the Princeton Blockchain and AI meetup, where that one's just going to be total testing. Sorry about my phone. See if anybody, before the meetup next week wants to run it through and try to test it. And we were just talking about the YouTube video prep. So, Jim, look, I have a question. Do you envision Jim testing the lightweight version or the AWS version?
Yeah, it's the same. The lightweight version. Yeah, I'd like to install the lightweight version on AWS. In that way, people can choose, can select the local installation or the AWS installation, or the third version, if we have enough time, to share, simply share the URL, the public URL. In that case, you don't need to install anything. You just type the URL and can test. For the third version, I just need to modify something, because it needed to allow multiple clients to the same service. So just need to change something. So the idea
So there are
is, sorry.
different versions to install.
No, third version to install. The current one is the first local installation. The YouTube video I already shared.
Yes,
Okay, the
that's the
same
one I read.
version, yeah, is the first version. But for people who don't want to install locally, but have, for example, have a team, maybe they prefer an AWS. So it's the same software, but installed in AWS, and people need another YouTube video, because it's important also to explain how to create a virtual machine in AWS, and after that the standard installation. But I think also that some people like Jim, he don't want to write comments, and if he is more comfortable to test the online version, we can also have one version for him, and share the URL.
So the online version
Yeah,
is that still where you can input your documents and then ask questions, or is it just the question part?
yeah, or no, just question. But you can, if you want to train the system with your documents, you can tell me, and I use your documents to train the system and share the URL to you.
Got it.
Yeah, I think that the big challenge is the time, because we don't have enough time. We don't have, we have just 1 week, and before until the 19. So 1 week is not enough for old version. Now we have the first that can share with all technical people that wants to test the system, but the other two version can be for the team. So it's an online version that people can install in um, their AWS account space. And the third one is like Jim. If Jim told me, no, tell me, no, I don't want to install everything because I don't want to spend 1 hour to read documents or to watch your video. Just share me one link. In that case, is the third version, and Jim can should send me I don't know, like wiki pages or other kind of software documentation, and I train the system with that documentation and share the link with Jim.
I don't know again if we'll have time before the meetup for that one. What do you think the best route for the developers who are going to show up for the workshop to use? The version 1 or version 2?
Yeah, I think developer can use the version 1 if they want to install locally. For example, for team, they also can use the version 2, which is the same of version 1, but it's an online version in that case.
Got it.
So I think we can also, for developers, we can also share the current version if the YouTube video is clear. Otherwise, I can change. I can fix some part if you think that some part is not clear. Is not is not clear.
Okay, so I'm going to look at, I said I had started the documentation for the YouTube video. I didn't get very far because, Monday morning, but I will work on that. And if that YouTube video gets us where we need to go for the meetup, we're done for the meetup. That's all we'll use that. And then we can separately work on the other two pieces as we grow. And I wouldn't be afraid of giving Jim Mason the YouTube video as it stands right now. Unless he said something like he doesn't want to install anything on his locally. I mean, I don't know that conversation you had with him, so I'm not sure what he's expecting to test.
No. Okay. Just me check the email, because I think he asked me to. Okay. No. I remember he sent me an email. Yeah, I don't find it. Why?
You never can find anything when you're looking for it.
It's a lot of emails. Okay, Jim.
I could work.
Hello, Tripur.
Hi everyone. Hi
Hello, Tripur.
Hi
Hello,
people.
Tripur.
Good morning everyone.
Good morning, Tripur. Okay, Jim shared the test with me, and I think the project is useful for two reasons. First, when you have finished training the model, it will be improvement for users to find useful information quickly, more than is possible now. Okay. Second, I want to try to use your lab as the basis to build an AI help bot on my content site. Okay, as a tutorial following. So, he said, I want to try to use your lab as the basis to build an AI help bot on my content site. as a tutorial following your process where that's reasonable. Let me know your thoughts. Yeah, okay. I think I can reply to Jim and also can share the video with him and ask his documentation to train the system and maybe wait for the wait for the answer.
Yeah, so I guess Peter will test today. I'll test today. Tripor, if you have time to test today, that would be great. I will drop the YouTube video in the link again. In the chat for everyone. So everyone has it. It's also on our website. So, if you watch this YouTube video, you should be able to. This is the video. If there's no kinks in it, that will release to the workshop public, so they can either test it out beforehand, or I guess we'll have to practice next week, walking through what we're going to do at the workshop.
Yeah, I'd like just one or two people that want to try the system and then can share.
Yeah, I think though that one of us, either you or Tripur or whoever you think, should walk through the installation process step by step in the beginning, and then ask the developers for comments. What did you run into? What do you think? How can we improve? But we can put a framework around that meetup later on in the week. But let's make sure that the YouTube video tests out first, so that if we put it out there for the people to test before the meetup, that it works perfectly. So that's a to-do for today. Let me go back to. Oh, my dogs are freaking out. Oh, by the way, this is gorgeous, Tripor. You did this, right? What's on the screen for the ebook? This is great. I love
Yeah.
this. This is gorgeous. Gorgeous. So we're going to work on that too. But in the meantime, okay. So yeah, I'm going to work on both of these, Tripor. If you want to help out with testing out and see if it works, and maybe do a quick. I'm going to do a quick guide, step by step, with like big red arrows as to what everybody should do and get, that kind of thing. That would be great. So let me just finish through my stuff. The mentorship wrap up.
Okay.
She's not here. Jacqueline's not here, so I don't know if she got notice when she's got to do this. But do you see her okay with presenting the workshop to the mentors, or I'm not sure where she is on this? Gianluca, have you talked to her at all?
Yeah, I'd like. I want to contact her in Discord. Generally, they replying very quickly, so will send a message to her and let you know what 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 is her decision.
Okay, and again, we just briefly touched on the website. It needs to be redesigned, but all the links and information are there. So the YouTube video, if you want to try out our latest version, is there. The meetup information, that link works. So all the stuff that people need is there. If anybody wants any ideas about what this should look like, or want to wireframe some things, this is just up here so that the bulletin board, so that the information is there for people. But again, that can do anything. This is a link to the Doctors Institute. What is this? Oh, okay. So these are the people who filled out the form for becoming partners and moving forward as a team member in this AIQ, AI FAQ, Chatbot Pro business venture. So if you fill out the responses, it'll show up here, and we will contact you with paperwork from the accountant and lawyers when we get it to move forward with being a partner on that. So that's interesting. I think Trimpor's going to figure that out today, hopefully. And then this was just an article I had for you, Gianluca, because Wednesday is go to market, and this is that I belong to a subscription for a company. It's too long didn't read is the initials, and they send out newsletters. This was one for founders, so it just happened to be the go to market launch thing. So I thought we might want to read this and get some ideas or whatever. So it was just an article for you, for us to read for the Thursday call. So that
Sorry. Can you share the link of the? Oh, okay, it's in the yeah. Okay, thank you.
Yep. So that's there for everybody to grab and look at. The only other thing that I thought we would go over was, of course, I have no idea where I put it now. Recent Google Drive. Let's see if I can find it. And I don't know, Gianluca, did you get a chance to do this? Maybe we should save this for the Thursday meeting, but answering the questions from that other document.
Yeah, I received the Peter document. It's very interesting, and I'd like to feel something like the Peter documents, and we share with you.
Okay, so that's there. So I filled it out. Peter filled it out. So Thursday when we meet, we can just go over the answers to that, if that's okay with everybody. Give Gianluca a chance to catch up while we're testing the system. Yay! Now I lost my Zoom room. There it is. So that was about all I had to go over today. I'm just going to try testing and getting some user guides. And if everything works out, I will publish the meetup to the Princeton Blockchain and AI and edit the network meetup at Hyperledger to include the link for developers who want to test the system this week before the meetup. Turn it over to you again, Luca.
Okay. Yeah, just I'd like to share something with because I think Peter in a few minutes will leave and we will see at 10 o'clock.
Version of AI FAQ. The step is to
Okay,
No,
just,
my meeting, my 9:30 meeting, I switched it to 8:30 for the team in
Okay.
India, since they don't have daylight savings time at the same time as us. So I just kept it for the same time. So I'm good. That's why I was a little bit late. So I'm good. I'm good all the way through 10 o'clock here, or as long as we need to go. And then we're meeting Tim, reminder, we're meeting Tim at 10 a.m.
Okay. Just I'd like to share with you a small audience the Sunday thoughts and about yeah, the idea is to add some slides to the pitch. For example, one that present three examples of problems of software documentation problems. One is the low quality of bad template, or yeah, I mean, for example, Microsoft is an example as in my opinion a good documentation, but when we check when you check the snippet of code as sample, it's not very clear, or it's not always clear. And another problem is too many documents and formats. And that example is like AWS. If we check AWS documentation, we need tons of documents and also some redundancy, because we have hopefully two or three documents on the same topic. And last one is little documentation of lack of documentation. In that case, it's my brother conversation when he has like 20 year experience as developer. He writes code 88 hours per day. So he has a great experience in writing code. And he said that sometimes, especially in Italy, I don't know if it's around the world is the same. Some software does not have documentation. So you should learn, you should study reading the code. Also, I have that experience in two Italian companies, and if you want to know how a software works, and if you want to change something, if you want to add new features, you must read the code. It is not very comfortable. And so how to solve? One could be, in case of low quality or bad template, we can provide AI template, and it's like similar to Canva. When you in that case, the user select the use case, a chatbot or translation of the documentation, generation or summarization. In that case, summarization means that I have lots of documentation, maybe, and I will provide the content to one chatbot or one AI tool, general AI tool, but I can also select different templates like Canva, or another that is the current prototype. So another quick
What do you mean by it?
solution.
What do you mean by a Canva template in the context of an AI chatbot? Is that what you're getting at?
Yeah, the idea is in case you have a different we have different problems. Maybe you should implement something, and if your tool is AWS, you have tons of documentation. You don't have enough time to read all documentation, so you want to summarize that documentation. So you use the new AI FAQ version. This is an idea. Select your use case. Your use case is summarization. And before provide your content, your PDF file, your AWS file, you can choose a template because you need a different output. It's the summarization is a general feature, okay, but you need a different template, a different output. So you can choose and also can change some configuration.
So, are you saying that when a user comes to use the system to input data, they can use the system in two ways? One, to set up a chatbot, or two, just to summarize their massive amounts of information, both using an AI agent to do that, correct?
Yes, because the general core concern of our pitch is that the market is there are lots of players, lots of people that can build an AI chatbot in very fast. It's very fast in very short time. So why we can have a different? Why we are different, and what is our secret sauce? One idea can be we provide different solution. There are quick solution. It's not a big AI tool, and like agents, you can see, and each solution you can choose your solution, selecting your category, your use case, and when you select your use case, you can also select your UI, because the same use case has different UI.
So
And
so
so,
walk us through two examples again.
okay, yeah,
Do like, hey, here's what Gianluca needs. Here's what Gianluca's brother needs.
okay, so yeah, this one, this is another. It's not my brother in that case, but it's a kind of like Hyperledger. Hyperledger problem is we have too many documents with different format. In that case, here you select chatbot, the third button, and the system provide different UI, because I don't know, maybe you.
Look, we're not seeing, I think, the screen you want us to see. We just have your open windows with the download and
With
the,
your notes.
Oh, sorry.
yeah, so
Oh, yeah,
when you
it's
keep going to pick, we're not seeing what you're seeing. Thank you.
oh, yeah. Thank you, Bobby. Okay, three example: low quality but template, too many documents and formats, little documentation or lack of documentation. So maybe that one, if you are in hyperledger situation, you have lots of documentation in different formats. So you are here, select chatbot, the third button here, and you can select different chatbot because maybe I'd like to have a verbose version, okay, but maybe three word, like one sentence, but also the link to dive in, so it's a different output, okay, just to change the prompt inside the configuration. And also maybe you want a chatbot with, I don't know, black background or white background, also change the color. So in that case we are in hyperledger situation. Select the third button, select your template, and put your documents to start training. And the system provide you that chatbot. And maybe the third version here, you have little documentation. You provide the software. It's that's it's ChatGPT. This morning I shared the current as very small piece of AI FAQ with ChatGPT and asked, "Can you provide me software documentation starting from source code?" And he replied, "Sure, this is the software documentation overview, blah, 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 blah. This is the dependencies, each one with the behavior. And this is the also the configuration. So that is the configuration part. But you can also ask him modular architecture schema. I don't know, because it's not so important also the, how to say, the software documentation, but also the general schema of your software. It's also important, some UML diagrams that explain how the system works, or some classes and object behavior. I don't know if it's clear.
Yeah, I'm not quite getting it. Bobby, are you getting it?
So you're giving the user or the developer, no, you're giving the user different options. Can they switch back and forth? Like say for instance, so let me just run it through like for Jim Mason in public sector. So say he wants to put this chatbot on the public sector wiki pages. So they've had a ton of people come present for public sector solutions in blockchain. They've had a ton of articles. They've had a ton of stuff. So say I come in and I just want to see what the public sector working group has been up to. I can go to the summary and summarize their all that information and get just little snippets of what they did. Or if I want to be Jim Mason and I want to put a chatbot on the public sector webpage so that people can ask a general question, has the state of Rhode Island successfully implemented their blockchain solution, and get an answer to that kind of question. So I see the two different choices where you're summarizing or you're directly asking a question of the chatbot and getting an answer. I don't know, I'm not clear on the one where you say if ChatGPT is going to fill it in for you, like the low quality or the not enough information one. I'm not clear on. Did I get those two right though?
Yeah, it's right. We have different use cases, maybe three or four, not two, because you can also have another situation where you don't have documentation. You have only the source code. It's my brother problem. So in that case, if you are a new developer in that company, you must read all the code to understand the software behavior before to start coding. So in that case, maybe could be if you have an AI tool like ChatGPT or another AI tool, and ask it to generate your documentation. In that case, you can read documentation instead of read code.
So you want it to work kind of like the read the docs, but for code.
No, it works. Yeah, like generate read docs from code. Yes, correct.
Got it.
Yeah, because the concern of the other mentors is why you are different. Okay, we are different because yeah, it's not difficult to have a chatbot, but if you want to provide chatbot and other AI tools, yeah, it's a future vision.
Okay.
Okay, if you we don't want only provide a chatbot. Okay, but we want to provide a chatbot with can be customized, but also other AI tool for the different use cases. This is a list of transformer technology use cases. It's the translation, the chatbot, Q&A,
Okay.
generation, and summarization. Okay, we can provide
So
different. Sorry, go ahead.
So let me see if I understand. So one option is a standard Q&A chatbot that's very open-ended, and
Mhm.
you as the user sort of, it's up to you to, like, it's based on the quality of your questions, and it can search the existing documentation. That's one thing. Then the other thing is for people that like, hey, this is too open-ended, and people have challenges using ChatGPT because they're like, I don't know what it can do because it's just this big open-ended type whatever you want kind of thing. I don't know what it's good or bad at. So the other thing you can do is sort of provide some structure. And you can provide a list of things like summarize. And I have seen people in the past, saw some people did this a couple years ago where they created a prompt builder. And it would sort of walk you through like you're doing like Mad Libs of like, give me an action you're looking to do, give me a persona you're wanting to be, and it would help you walk through creating your own prompts by giving some structure in that way. Um, and so we could also do something like that to make it easier for people to provide some structure that makes sense for developers. Um, you know, so, to sort of help them get started using these tools. But then sort of a third use case you're bringing is, well, the chatbot's only as good as the documentation that's in there. And if the documentation isn't there, but there's a lot of sample code, what can we use AI to extrapolate and tell people about this programming language based on just analyzing code? Um, and so that's interesting idea, certainly a unique idea, I think. I'm not sure who else is doing that. But I would also say let's do some market research, and find out who else is doing that and how big of a problem is that? Like that's I know your brother said it's a problem for him, but for most developers and most developers' platforms, or most platforms that would pay us, is that really a problem for them? My guess is that my guess would be if they don't have a lot of documentation, they probably don't have a lot of sample code either. So I'm not sure what with limited sample code you'd be able to use AI to extract out and then create some kind of how-to documentation for developers based on just reading, code. I'm not sure how the level of effort that would require versus the value it delivers without doing some more market research. But it certainly sounds like an interesting concept and something we should put together like a product roadmap document with a backlog of ideas like this.
Yeah,
What are your
okay.
thoughts, Bobby and Tripur?
I like we can add two things in it. The one of the section will be like summarization, and then there will be generation. So this can make us unique, but this is not like totally unique, but we are giving them a separate, button to do that for us. So the people who will come on the platform don't have to think if they have to summarize. They don't have to write a prompt for that. So I think that could be something like a unique selling point for us right now, because at the end of the day it's a chatbot, and people will think that why it's unique from OpenAI. And we can give them other stuff that they can use, which is summarization and generation. If I want a paragraph to be summarized, then I would like to use that. And if I want my paragraph to get bigger, so we can use it to like use the generation part of it. And I do agree with Peter's point that companies who don't have the documentation yet would not have sample codes with them, because other like they don't write sample code unless it's needed in the documentation. So that's kind of which point I agree with.
I mean, at some point, we're looking at ourselves as curators of this information to hand it to you the way you need it. I mean, that's the critical piece, is that we don't want people to be searching around and searching around for an answer that they can just get from a regular question. So I think we really have to separate our heads into two different buckets, which is the developers, the people who are going to be inputting the information, and then the users. And we have to keep those two things separate, because the user interface is going to be based on what the developers do. And if, for instance, your use case is, I have this product that it's used worldwide, I need just the translation piece. Or have so much code in Fabric, I need all the code in there so that when someone's trying to install it and use it, they can ask the chatbot a simple question and it will think for them a relevant answer to their operating system and to their whole thing. So again, the developers have to know how it's going to be used. And I'm not sure, Gianluca, if you're like giving options to the developers to curate the system before the users even get it, or giving the users, like, which comes first, the user question or the developers format? You see what I'm saying?
Uh, no,
So
no,
think of
I
yourself
think
like an end user. I am not going to be going to Fabric's wiki page or web page. I'm just going to use the end user view, or even a cell phone app. I'm not going to go there and have thought about what engine I need, whether I need it to generate or summarize. I'm an end user. I'm just going to want to type my question. I'm not going to want to deal with those four categories. I want them already dealt with for me. So that's on the developer side. So you need two different guides. And I guess the user guide will change each time depending on what the developer does with the system. So you're giving the developer choices, correct?
yes, correct. This, yeah, I think each developer has a different problem, because in case of, if you have lots of documentation, yeah, it depends of how much documentation you have, how many documents, but also how much time you have, and what is your goal, your priority. I mean, if I have 1 week to implement a small model, a small software with lots of documentation, it's very different in case of if I have 1 year and I have to develop um, a high software without documentation. It's completely different. I can, if I start with documentation or without, if I start with um, redundant documentation or without, and if I need to, I don't know, if I don't trust the chatbot, I ask one sentence with the link to dive in. and read documentation. In other case, if I trust the chatbot, I just need a general suggestion. I ask to the chatbot a verbose answer because I want to read the answer and don't want to read any documentation after that activity.
So, putting an overall business plan on top of that, we would be offering our consulting services to the developer for him to decide what format his end user needs the information in. Whether that end user is other developers, which is most likely with our target market, or whether it's end users just asking, like I'm a business decision maker and I want to know if Hyperledger Fabric can handle my supply chain. So I'm going to start asking questions of this chatbot for Hyperledger Fabric. Those are two different use cases. And as the AI FAQ Pro team, we need to figure out where our consulting and our services fit in. And from this, it looks like on the developer side. So we wouldn't even be dealing, other than maybe making a nice UI for the end users. The developers will decide whether it's a translation AI bot that they need or a general librarian. I'm going to call the chat bot a librarian
General
to ask
Q&A,
questions.
a Q&A chatbot. Yeah.
Yeah, or something to summarize vast amounts of information. Those would be things that we would have to consult the developers on. So that's kind of where I'm sitting with that. Do you see the same thing, Peter?
Yeah. Um, yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure without talking to more developers what their needs are. I go back to sort of the minimum viable test of, hey, our developers, let's sort of validate the first idea first of do enough developers find find the Q&A interface better than let's like I think we're sort of saying, oh, that they're not going to like the Q&A interface of just a general chatbot, and they're going to need us to provide structure and other options to them. I say let's validate that first. Of hey, what are your thoughts around a general Q&A chatbot, and for what types of developers and what types of problems they're trying to solve, does it work and does it not work? So I feel like we need to gather that information first, where they're like, hey, it's really great at sort of finding the reference documents I want without me searching. Or do most of them come here and they're like, yeah, I'm not sure what to ask, even in the first place. And how many are just like, oh, I can't find the answer I'm looking for. And that's because there really isn't enough documentation in the first place. So I think as we sort of test things out, we'll identify what the best use case is and what the biggest challenges that developers run into. But there is something interesting about the idea of like development firms hate creating documentation. Is there a way to use AI to help to facilitate the creation of that documentation?
I know Tripor is probably well qualified to answer that because she did a study on GitHub, create documents, read the data. So, how do you see Tripor AI filling that need that we were talking about last year?
I think that would be a very great, the unique selling point of the product, because selling just the chatbot is not enough, in my opinion, because everyone has already been on OpenAI, Claude AI, and now Nvidia has also launched another AI which everyone is thinking will surpass every AI that is in the market. But to what I think,
You mean the end
documentation,
models?
yeah,
You
yeah,
mean
yeah,
the large language models? Okay.
yeah. So I was saying that documentation would be like a point where we can start. And I was actually thinking while listening to this that chat gpt can also do this. So how can we make our product better? I think we have to train the model in a way like that is very specific only for documentation, so that they won't advise you to put animations in it, because in documentation that is not something we can do. So it has to know the rules of how to write a documentation, and it has to suggest in that way, so we can make a particular model for that. Like, that's what I think.
So if we do that, so ask your question, but as a bonus, you're going to get a templated, uh, formatted documented answer.
Yeah, like if someone just gives them the code and they want that right documentation of this code, then the chat gpt will like read it and then just make a description of every code line that it sees. But with our product, we can make it unique in a way that it already knows the rule of how to write documentation, and it give you something like not just the explanation of the code, but what the code is in general doing. So I think that could be unique for us.
So let me take that concept and roll with it a little bit. What if it was sort of crowdsourced generation of documentation, where your end users use AI and they are helping sort of they're both contributing and using AI to generate your end user documentation. And it could go and like I think of this, and there's a concept in customer support, um gosh, called KCS, knowledge centered service, which I actually went and got certified on like 8 years ago when I was at Right Answers doing their knowledge management software. And it's this process where the concept is you don't create your knowledge base. And that in a way is what sort of developer documentation is. It's another form of a knowledge base. Except for developers, instead of people who like lost their credit card and need to know the process for like, how do I get a new credit card when they call the support agent. Um, but so you create these knowledge articles, but you do it on demand. As people ask the question, then it feeds into your knowledge management system of like, oh, here's the documentation that needs to be created. And then the knowledge workers create those articles, and or they if one doesn't exist, they create it sort of on demand, and it goes through sort of a review process, and then becomes part of the knowledge base. If it does exist already, but it's incomplete or needs additional information because something's changed with a new version or new process, then they flag it as something that needs to be updated and they do it. But the whole process is to sort of create this documentation based on the feedback you're getting from, um, based on the types of support questions you're getting. So, like that could be an interesting concept of creating this documentation on demand with an AI assistant.
The name in
There's
our
a lot of
name.
complexity to that, but it's a really interesting concept.
Yeah, I agree with you, but the only thing that we should do before building our knowledge base is that we should feed the rules of how to write a documentation, because they would not be doing that unless they want a specific, format or specific rules that they want to follow, because write the docs follow some other kind of rules. But some other if you look at sync api, they have their own rules of writing their documentation. So I think before building the knowledge base, we should know the basic, like the all around the world accepted documentation format, and after that we can provide like the what the llm will learn itself what the customer is asking for, and like build around it. So yeah, that could be something that we can do.
So I again go back to the name of the product, which is the FAQ. And what Peter said, like a light bulb went off in my head. I personally love books and love like once the question's been asked of a certain system, like as the screen we're looking at down the side in the black has some of the most frequently asked questions. You could put like a frequently asked question there, and have that documentation stored back there. So if people ask the question, they can look at the documentation already and question that documentation, and again rebuild from their question what if there's more information from that question. But have somewhere, and I always see books like almost like a library that already has the questions and the documentation that's been asked, so you're not recreating the wheel every time you're looking for this critical piece of information.
Right. And it would know that, like, oh, 2 people asked this similar question, 50 people asked this question. So that's the one you need, the one that 50 people are asking, like, that's the one you need to go create the documentation for.
Yep. And have that first in a list, because that's the first thing I look at when I'm asking a question to figure something out is, do they have an FAQ, and has this question been asked before? Because again, when I monitor the forums for those blockchains, it was the same question every time. It was just a different user and a different system, but it was the same. Like,
so let's explore this idea. Let's definitely put it down as a way to get AI involved in this the documentation creation process, and maybe have some initial conversations with people, including the guy we're going to speak to just now, Tim, in 2 minutes. And so another thought I had around features is we talked about, like, oh, the end customer is not the developer, it's the development companies that have the tools and are have the documentation so that they could provide chatbots to people. Is there a way to just sell it directly to developers and as a Chrome extension or something, and they literally just point it to a website, say, hey, I use Hyperledger Fabric, point it to its documentation, and somehow we go scrape that documentation, load it into, a database, and create a personal chatbot for them to access the documentation. Is that an option?
Yeah, it's interesting, especially for web developer who has always Google Chrome open. And yeah, in general, I think chatbot it's a comfortable tool.
Yeah. So if these are public websites, whether it's Microsoft's or Amazon's or Hyperledger's, couldn't we just crawl? I mean, this is what OpenAI is doing anyway right now. Couldn't we just crawl that website, collect that information, and say, yeah, this is what's going to be used for this?
Mm-hmm.
I just put AI documentation editor in the chat just for you to look at to see what services they offer.
Okay, cool. All right, guys, let's jump off this call and go meet Tim on the next one.
Okay.
All right.
Thank
I'll
you.
see you guys in a minute. Bye.
Are you available for the next call?
Excuse me?
I was asking Tripur if she can stay on for the next call. I would give her the link. Or do you have class?
Yeah, I have a class, so I have to get
Okay.
moving.
I'll summarize it for you when I talk to you next time.
Yeah.
All right, cool.
All right,
All
I'll
right,
see you
bye.
next week.
Yeah.
Hello. Bye, Tibur.